Even though I grew up in Seattle, I was born in Texas, and I always tell people I'm from there because I'm proud of it. Texas has always seemed strange and exotic to me, a bit wild, like going back in time. I was born in Houston on March 28, 1965, but I have no recollection of living there. My family moved to the Emerald City in the summer of 1967 when I was 2. My sister Mary Virginia was 4. And my brother Patrick was 7. Seattle was the only city I'd known until I moved south to Portland in 2007, but we'll get to that later. The change in climate, scenery, and culture was no doubt a shock to my parents, who were super white-bread Texans. But for a kid, Seattle was a great place to grow up. My parents moved the family from Texas to Seattle because my dad got a job as the director of Seattle's proposed World Trade Center. He had extensive import-export experience focusing mainly on the Far East, so Seattle was a good fit. Seattle in the late 60s was nothing like what it is today. It was a Boeing city, as that's where the bulk of the jobs were. When we moved to Seattle, it was a much smaller, sleepy city and was very blue-collar. The high-tech industry and the pervasive wealth it brought would come 25 years later and would coincide, oddly enough, with the rise of the local music scene. My father, Robert Neil Turner, was the only son of a Polish immigrant, John Peter Tuzinski, who took on the surname Turner when his employer at the time couldn't pronounce his last name. My mother, Patricia Jean Landers, could trace her ancestry back to the 1600s in America. There was no real ethnic heritage that I could ever find on her side, other than the fact that she was 1/32nd Native American, which Boeing tried to use to its advantage, claiming her minority status for its hiring quotas when she worked there in the 80s. Because my father was an only child and my mother's dad left his family during the Great Depression and never returned, I didn't grow up near a lot of family beyond my parents and siblings. Most summers while living in Seattle, however, we would return to Texas to see my mom's kin. My maternal grandmother, Tula Yam Landers, had 5 sisters, and we'd spend time with most of them, particularly my great-aunt Betty Boo Stallings and her husband, Bob. My mom had 2 sisters, Rose, who we'd see in Texas, and Peg, who'd married musician Liebert Lombardo, brother of bandleader Guy Lombardo. Peg split her time between Florida and New York. Both my parents were well-educated and had college degrees. They came of age in the post-war 50s and had a straight-laced view of the world. Though they'd both been raised Catholic, they were liberal and didn't like some of the Catholic Church's positions, like opposing birth control. Personally, I hate the popes of the last 60 years for continuing to decry birth control and not getting behind safe sex education through the 80s during the AIDS crisis when they could have saved millions of lives. We settled into our rented home on 18th Avenue East in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, and my older siblings were enrolled in Catholic school for the new school year. Though I'd only live at this home with my family for 4 years, I returned to Capitol Hill as an adult. I bought my first home there, and this area would eventually become an enclave of Seattle's progressive cultural community. My first memories of Seattle are of the 18th Avenue house. It was a gorgeous 4-bedroom box with a giant porch on the front, full basement, good-sized yard and alley in the back. A true heritage home from an earlier era. However, what captured my imagination was a weird trap door between my brother's and sister's rooms. There was a little tunnel that I loved crawling through. I have no idea why it was there. I was so enamored with this house that as an adult I pined for it and fantasized about buying it when I had money from Mudhoney's major label record deal in the early 90s. Sadly, it never went up for sale.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.